for those of you that I have not had the opportunity to meet yet, I'm Allison Abbott. I'm the Vice President of Communications here at Better Business Bureau, serving Central Oklahoma. We're, of course, located in Oklahoma City, for those that may not be aware. And I'm so excited that you all are joining us today. So our ongoing Trust Talk Lunch and Learn series is typically here at our office, but of course, due to recent circumstances, we moved this online. So I'm thrilled that you're dialed in. Please bear with us. I believe we've got the tech kinks worked out, but if you're having any challenges, please don't hesitate to, for that reason, also put a note in the chat feature. So what we try to do with the Trust Talk series is we try to bring different speakers, different industries, different topics in order to aid you so that you can learn and essentially take back some new tips, tricks to your office or now your virtual office and implement those the next day, basically. So I'm so thrilled and want to quickly introduce our speakers. They are here in the room, but we're across the room from one another, of course, practicing social distancing today. And I'm so thrilled for the information they get to share with you about ransomware. They're going to give you a brief history on it, some additional information on it. They've got some cool things to show us, as well as they will be telling us throughout the presentation about some of the scams that they've seen recently with the COVID-19 pandemic. So without further ado, I'll have them wave quickly as I tell you a little bit about them, and then I will go on mute and turn it over. So Nathan Howell, he is the Vice President of Sales and Development with Advantec Solutions. They're one of the oldest locally owned IT companies in Oklahoma City. Nathan comes to us and to Advantec with a vast background in business administration, and he is a wealth of knowledge, so we're blessed to have him here with us today. Additionally, his partner in crime, so to speak, is Sean Patterson. He is involved in various positions of law enforcement here across the metro and comes to us with a background in law enforcement from various angles, so also blessed to have him today. Gentlemen, I'm going to turn it over to you. Feel free to give any additional context to your backgrounds, and let's dive in.
Yeah, thanks, Allison. Just want to thank everyone for showing up today virtually. The BVB has been great to deal with in a situation that's been a little hectic the last month or two. And this is really a trying time, I know, for a lot of businesses. Taking time to attend this, I think, will be really beneficial. I think you'll like the information. You're going to have a lot of takeaways, over 25 tips and examples, and just learning tools to help your businesses and help your employees be on the lookout for, ransomware, viruses, things like that, that can really, at a time where technology is really important and we are depending on it a lot right now, we don't want our systems going down. We don't want to be hit by ransomware or a virus, and we're going to get into that. I'm going to turn it over to Sean, and we're going to get this thing kicked off. So thank you.
Hi, folks. How are you doing? So, of course, as you can see, we're titling this called ransomware. So we want to start off with ransomware. And so what is ransomware? Well, I'm not going to read verbatim what ransomware is, but essentially it's malware. It's something that somebody has created that they're going to put onto your computer. And the name ransomware, it's pretty self-defining. It's malware that gets into your computer, and the people that put it on your computer, they want your data. They either want to share it to embarrass you, they want to exploit you, and so they're going to ask for a ransom. They're going to lock your computer up. They're going to take all of your data, and they're going to ask for money. And you may want to know, well, why are they doing this? Well, it's a money scheme. Countries, they literally fund their economies off of this. North Korea funds their economies off of ransomware. You may have heard about when Sony was hit. Russia cultivates this. They will bring up their children. The Russian government will find children that they think that are good with computers, and they will train them to do this. And so where this comes from is with virtual currency today, with it being hard to track, somebody will sit into a room, will be sitting into a computer lab, or maybe in the basement of their mom's house. They will create this ransomware. They'll send it out. They'll send it out through emails, through phishing schemes, through spam. And so they'll be looking for potential, if they send out, if they're asking, a guy wants to make $10,000 in one day. He'll send it out. He needs 25 people to hit on it if he wants to get $400 a victim. So he'll send out 10,000 emails. Of those 10,000 emails, he just needs 0.25% to click on a link. He gets that 0.25% clicks on that link, he owns their data, then he demands money from them. And a lot of people will pay it to get his 10,000 so that he can get his $10,000.
Yeah, so the history of ransomware actually goes back to 1989. It's pretty interesting. The father of ransomware, his name was Joseph L. Pock. He's kind of a particularly intriguing gentleman, very much like our Joe Exotic. I don't know if you guys have been watching the Netflix show, Tiger King. If you haven't, it's must-see TV. But he and Joseph L. Pock, father of ransomware, had a lot of similarities. This gentleman basically started he sent out an email to 20,000 attendees of a World Health Organization during the AIDS epidemic, when that was going crazy. The disk that he sent out, the floppy, would lock up their computers, and it would pop up that if you want to unlock your computer, you need to send $300 to a P.O. box in Panama, by where he would then send another floppy disk to unlock the computer. Unfortunately, he was extradited to Britain. They ended up going through the trial, and he was not indicted on anything because of insanity, which is a little crazy. But he would wear boxes on his head, curlers in his beard. Very interesting guy, like I said. And then later, once he was released, he ended up opening up a butterfly sanctuary in New York, which is still open today. Again, it's not tigers, but butterflies are a lot less dangerous, I hear. So moving on here, we've got back in 2005, you had another ransomware pop up in Russia, and it was the first one that had an encryption on just particular data, not the whole system, with a note that would say, hey, pay up or your data's gone. And then in 2010, Bitcoin was on the market for a year, a little over a year and a half, 2 years, and it was gaining traction. So it was gaining value. It was locking up screens, and then with the availability of it being anonymous, and with the cryptocurrency being very hard to track, it was perfect for hackers to use to extort money from people. Then we move on to, let's go back here. All right, a little bit of it. Okay, apologies. I get this going here. All right. So then by 2016, ransomware had hit $1 billion in revenue. So from the time it was monetized in 2010 with Bitcoin to 2016, it already hit $1 billion in income for these hackers. To put that into scope, it took Facebook exactly 6 years to hit $1 billion in revenue. Twitter's been around for 13 years, and they just now hit $1 billion in revenue. Then in 2017, WannaCry was the most widespread ransom hit at the time. It hit over 150 countries, did over did 200,000 infections on systems. Each ransom, they were asking in between $300 to $600 per computer. Ended up doing millions of dollars worth of damages to infrastructure, hospitals, governments. And believe it or not, China and Russia were actually hit the hardest at this time with this ransom. And throughout this time frame, and actually up until today, you've got even more ransomware software out there. It's over 830 different variations of ransomware that are hitting out on the market today. They're being distributed on the dark web, which if you get a chance, you need to Google that. It's a pretty serious platform that these guys are using to sell ransomware to other hackers. So it's spread pretty fast. So when you look at the targets, the United States, hackers, they're opportunistic. They go where the money is. The United States has gotten 53% of the ransomware hits between June of 2018 and June of 2019, followed by Canada, the UK, Brazil, and then just sporadic companies or countries throughout last year. Canada was actually paid the most in ransomware when it comes to percentages of ransoms demands. The United States is been building on its infrastructure and trying to fight it best they can, but still, it's still out there and it's still hitting small companies, governments, everything. The map here shows basically where ransomware hits the most. Of course, it's where the most population is. You've got Texas, California, Florida, New York. Again, they're opportunistic. They're going to go where small companies, medium-sized companies aren't budgeting for IT or have a lot of money invested in IT, so they're going to hit those guys first. So when it comes to the actual industries, government agencies are hit the most here in the last few years. Educational institutions, professional services, healthcare, and then finally finance and insurance. So, you know, when we look at government agencies and the recent hits, there was a $4,000 ransom paid in March of 2019 in Jackson County, Georgia, where the entire system was shut down, leaving only 911 systems in place. All police reports and bookings had to be done with pen and paper, so they're going way back. They ended up calling the FBI. The FBI recommended a consultant, and they negotiated the ransomware to $400,000. They ended up paying it. Another hit in June of 2019, Lake City, Florida, $500,000 loss. At the time, that was only 42 Bitcoins, which shows you the value of the Bitcoins at the time. They were hit with Ryuk, which was a ransomware that had been around for about 2 years. Even though their IT staff had disconnected all their computers, it spread through their network so fast that they couldn't keep up, and they ended up having to pay the ransom. And then one of the other biggest hits was in Riviera Beach, Florida, in May of 2019. $600,000 hit. Again, it was the Ryuk, is the same ransomware that hit the other towns. Their online systems, emails, phones, all went down. While their utility pump stations were affected. Citizens had to come in and pay their bills with check, or they had to mail it in. And then after that, they ended up having to spend $1 million to basically clean out the system and upgrade. Educational systems, unfortunately, over 500 educational institutions were hit last year alone. Oklahoma City and Guthrie schools were actually hit with ransomware. Unfortunately, that information wasn't published, but again, we're not immune to anything here in Oklahoma. There was a $10,000 ransom that had to be paid in April of 18 at a Massachusetts school. Again, they didn't have backups. FBI recommended that they not pay it, but when they looked at the cost to rebuild their infrastructure and get all the data built back up, it wasn't worth it. It was cheaper to pay the $10,000 in ransom. $1.6 million ransom was requested for a school in Missouri in July of 2019. Again, these are all recent. It was called Crowder College. They had asked for $1.6 million to unlock their systems. Unfortunately, the school didn't have the money, and I believe they're still fighting with this. As of October of last year, I know that their Wi-Fi was still down, the labs were still not functioning, and the dorms were still out. Professional services. So FedEx was hit really hard in 18 and 19 by 2 ransomware attacks, Ryuk and then NotPetya. The ransom itself was substantial, but then the loss and the downtime just crushed them, and they had to pay a lot to get back to normal operating procedures. Professional services, that was FedEx. And then when we look at healthcare, $55,000 losses to some small community hospitals, again, where despite having backups, they looked at the cost of what it would take to rebuild, and it just wasn't worth it, so they ended up paying it. Another $70,000 loss. At the time was only 6 Bitcoins, again, showing the value of the Bitcoins and the cryptocurrency. In June of 2019, Park Duvall Community Health Center in Kentucky, they had medical records of almost 20,000 patients encrypted, and the $70,000 ransom had to be paid. One of the largest hits and largest losses here in the last few years, Merck drug manufacturer, they ended up having to rebuild and redo a lot of their servers and laptops. $870 million was their loss. They were hit also by the NotPetya ransomware. It infected 30,000 laptops and 7,500 servers. And just from the technology cleanup, the loss in sales, and the disrupted business, it put them way behind.
Give you a couple of statistics here of what takes place. Everybody pretty much is using computers. Your cell phone is a computer, especially if you have a smartphone. But on average, 4% of people will click on a link with a phishing email. That's where it starts. That's where you're going to, a phishing email is where you're going to get your ransomware, probably 90% of the time. In the last 12 months, 50% of small businesses have been breached. 40,000 attacks have occurred since 2016. 4,000 attacks have occurred since 2016. Of those attacks, 39% of them are malware. To put that in kind of into a perspective, the way you're getting it is 46% of this is spam or phishing emails. This is somebody that you trust, or you think you trust, a business that you know of. They send you an email, you click into it, and you're getting affected. 36% of this is done by lack of employee training, and this goes hand in hand with spam and phishing emails. If an employee is not properly trained on how to spot a spam or phishing email, you're going to get infected. 7% for your malicious websites. Let's say you go to Google, you type in, show me how to bake a cake, and a whole bunch of ideas come up, and you just start clicking on different ones. And you may not know that one recipe for a cake is a malicious website. Lack of security, that accounts for about 1%. There's not really any computers out there today that don't have some form of security in it. And then other factors would account for 5% of how our computers are becoming infected. To put it into perspective, in 2016, about every 2 minutes a computer was being hit. Today, 2019, it's about every 14 seconds. And to kind of show you, kind of give you a modern day view of what it looks like, we have a website here called FireEye, and this FireEye, it is showing live attacks right now throughout the world. And so you can see where they're originating from and where they're going to, United States right now to Taiwan, and we don't know who's sending these. It could be the government, it could be, normal people. But this website here called FireEye, it'll show you, live attacks that are taking place right now.
Also shows 5 of the top reported industries over here on the right. Again, this is kind of a moving target. It may change. You may get manufacturing hit real hard for a couple of months, and then it switches to financial services and then insurance. So not all of us are in these industries, but we all pretty much use them. And you definitely need to be careful with the information you're sharing out there.
Gentlemen, is this a site that anyone could take a look at?
Yes. So this will be on our resources list at the end that we will send out along with I guess the BBB will also be sending a survey, so it'll be with that, and we appreciate any feedback. So phishing, like Sean was saying, these phishing emails that are sent is the most popular form of getting the information from the hacker to you. They're targeting the elderly. Many times they're making it about certain things that would interest. I had a customer. She came in and brought her laptop. Unfortunately, she had clicked on a picture of Betty White. Well, she loved Betty White. Betty White was her favorite. Watched all the Golden Girls series, very interesting. But it was a phishing email that once she clicked on it, it locked down her computer. Basically, they call it phishing because the bait was Betty White. The picture intrigued someone. They knew who it was going to hit. Once she had clicked on the link, a number popped up on her screen, asked her to call in. And the next thing you know, she's talking to hackers. So they're convincing her to send them $250 check to fix it. And it just led to a big issue with us having to go in and fix now all the viruses that were on her computer. There's lots of different types of phishing. Spear phishing, you've got vishing, smishing, water holing, which I'm not making these up, I promise. These are real things. Baiting. So real quick, these phishing items that we're talking about, especially when it comes to, sorry about that. Here we go. So when it comes to spear phishing, that's where it's targeted to a particular company, HR director. They're actually focused on hitting one particular group. Phishing is where they're voice phishing. Again, once they get you on the phone, they may tell you they're with the Social Security office or the IRS or with some bank that's requesting your Social Security number and all your information. Again, you got to be very careful.
You need to be careful with the phishing. This is one of the biggest scams that's going on right now. You're getting people that are saying, I'm from a sheriff's office, I'm from the IRS, I'm from OG&E. That's the one big thing that these companies put out. The sheriff's offices, the police departments, they're not going to call you and tell you you have warrants. OG&E is not going to call you and tell you to give me, your personal information. Phishing is huge, and it makes a lot of money for these folks.
Yep. Smishing, that's where they're SMS texting you a lot of times during the election. If you've ever donated money to a political party, you notice you might be getting a lot of text from that political party. Again, if you can verify it, that's fine, but always go back to the website that you can confirm if you're going to make a donation to check it out before you give them any type of critical info. Water holing is basically where hackers will set up viruses in a certain website that they know a particular group uses. It's in reference to a lion stalking its prey at a water hole. Again, they're targeting just a certain group that hit a particular website at one time. Baiting, again, this is very much like the AIDS Trojan and Joseph Pop. He sent out an actual disk. A lot of times you'll see USB drives, CD-ROMs, different types of floppies in bathrooms or on the street. People thinking that you will just take it, install it into your computer. You might be expecting it to be music or data. Next thing you know, it's locking down your system and you're having to pay ransom. Tailgating, this is more of a kind of a social engineering tactic by hackers. What they do is they'll follow people into critical areas. A lot of times you'll have a key card to get into a lot of businesses, or an employee is trying to go to work and someone kind of sneaks in behind them, and then they have access to whatever's out and about. A lot of times if you're going to these internet shops where guys are, these coffee shops, chat shops, things like that, if you haven't logged out of a computer from a library, they will use your credentials to hack and send emails out to all your contacts. So again, if you're using a public computer, be sure to log out, make sure you can't access it unless your password's put in.
A good example of tailgating was Target. Target, the way that the people infiltrated Target got into their system was that they were able to get into the Target's computers, and they found where a company, I believe it was a heating and air contractor, had access to get into the Target system. And they were able to hack into this heating and air company's computers. And through that, they were able to get into Target. And that's what caused the big Target meltdown when they lost tons of data.
So we're going to go through some examples real quick. Again, especially now with COVID-19, you see here an email about the Wuhan virus. It's offering some kind of device that's almost, to keep you clean. You have to be very, very careful when you're looking at these emails. Again, if you haven't gone out to find the information and you can't verify where it came from, chances are it's some hacker trying to get into your system. This case particular, if you look at the link, it's really long. It's coming from an unknown email. This is actually one that we got, that we kept because we knew we'd be discussing this today. And if you look at the date, this has been going on for quite a while. Another example, apps. So if you're not going to the App Store, like for iTunes, you've got to be very careful with just downloading apps from particular websites or going off market. In this case, they created an app based on the COVID-19 to track its progression. A lot of people were downloading the app to their phone, and then it was locking their phone up. And then they would get a note that said $100 in Bitcoin in the next 48 hours, or we're going to take everything in your phone and disperse it to everyone. So private photos, information, emails, things that you don't want to share, they're basically threatening you. So this is another example of, battling disinformation and making sure you're verifying particular apps that you download to your phone before you put it into use. So the different COVID-19 scams right now, and I'm sure you're hearing about a lot of this, individuals or businesses selling fake cures, online efforts for vaccinations and test kits. again, these are going out by the droves. There's over, I think in the last month, the coronavirus and COVID-19, the domains, the websites that are being gobbled up by these hackers is astounding. Millions. I mean, they're trying to find any way to get into your computer to take your information. Phishing emails, malware inserted into mobile apps, all these we kind of reviewed with you. Websites, again, when you're doing a search, like Sean said, if you're just doing a Google search and you're looking at all these websites that pull up, unless you know who it is and who's created the website, I'd be very, very leery of clicking any attachments or downloading anything that's on those websites. You've got a lot of people doing crowdfunding and fake charities now. Again, those are particularly dangerous because you're giving bank information, you're giving your debit card information to pay for these, and unfortunately, you just can't verify and know who they're going to. So do your research and do your homework. So defending against COVID-19 scams, again, verifying, looking at the link before you click on it. The World Health Organization is particularly being used as a tool for hackers to get into people's systems. If you look at the end of the email, again, it should be at who.int. So if it's not from that email and you're looking at opening it, I would stay away from it, delete it, call your IT person, or just get it off your computer. Be careful providing personal information, again, to anyone. Not even the World Health Organization is going to ask you for personal information when it comes to you just researching. Don't feel under pressure. Don't fall for the tricks, especially if they're phishing and calling you. And if you do give personal information, sensitive information, and it was something that you got off the phone and you thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just gave them my home address, my debit card information. There's things you can do. You can cancel, obviously, accounts. You can put passwords on your bank accounts. You can change your PIN, change your passwords, all those things. So don't worry. You can take steps to recover from that. And again, if you see a scam, you can report it to the World Health Organization at this website that we'll be providing in the presentation as it comes out there. So familiar, this is another section that we talk about when it comes to phishing via email. So in this case, this looks like it came from Amazon. It's got the orange letters, it's got reference numbers, it's got phone numbers, it's got a lot of information. Obviously, we didn't order this stuff, and then when we went to look, you can see that the email address says it's from Amazon.com, but when you look at the actual address, it's a Gmail account. Well, I mean, Sean and I both know that Amazon can afford their own domain. They're not going to use a Gmail account. So it's little things like that that you can look out for. A lot of times when you're scrolling through the email and you see something highlighted as a link, you can see the address of that link. And if it doesn't say Amazon on it, more than likely it's a scam.
So in terms of financial, everybody gets, essentially you're going to get your a notice from your cell phone provider in the mail or through an email telling you your bill is ready. And you also, I know the city of Oklahoma City will send out a reminder saying, hey, your bill is ready and, don't pay this if you're already set up, or hey, you need to pay this. One of the big things you need to look out for whenever you get these bills in the mail, especially from someone you trust, such as like AT&T here, is that you'll notice up on the top left of this supposed bill that there's an attachment, and this attachment is a Word doc. First off, AT&T is not going to put an attachment on here, and they're definitely not going to put an attachment on here that's an edible Microsoft Word product. And the malware or the virus that's going to be attached to this email is in this attachment. So when you hover over some of these icons in the deal, that they may show that they're going back to AT&T, but the problem is the attachment. The second you click on this attachment, you're going to get a Trojan, you're going to get some type of virus, you're going to get ransomware. One of the big things here that, matter of fact, I just received this the other day, is this big Netflix validation failed, your account's on hold email. One of the things you need to really look at when you get these Netflix emails, is hover over the continue link and see where it's directing you to. You can tell that by looking at this, it's not taking you to a Netflix account or a Netflix website. It's taking you somewhere else. Another big thing to look at also is look at the grammar in these emails. Netflix, Microsoft, these big corporations that are going to send out emails, the grammar is going to be correct. There's not going to be misspelled words. The punctuation is going to be correct. Now in this particular email here, the punctuation, the grammar is correct. But in a lot of them, I recently received one from Microsoft that said that there was a problem with my account and they needed to take a look at something. But it was one big run-on sentence. And so because of that, I knew that was a junk email. Also, when you look at the sender up here for this Netflix, member at netflix.ssl.com, just small things to look at. Look at, the continue here where, when you hover over it, it should take you to Netflix, not to some off website. One of the biggest things is if you get one of these emails, turn your Netflix on. Is it still working? Well, then obviously it's not on hold. Or if you're not sure, just log into your own Netflix account. Don't actually click on these Netflix, Amazon deals. Go into your actual account, and that's the best way you can check to see if maybe you think that something's wrong with your account.
So what to do? Action plan. You want to do local backups on your computer. All Windows operating systems offer local backups where you can back up the information. It saves it in a certain location on your computer. You can do cloud backup. You can use a third party. There's places on the internet that you can hire to outsource and send your data to and hold it in the cloud. Just check them out. Talk to someone you trust and know, and you can always have local backups and cloud backups. That's what we do. A lot of our clients, they want to have multiple layers of security, and so we will do that for them. Use Reputable Antivirus. Sean and I have talked about this before, where going with the cheapest isn't always the best. A lot of the antivirus platforms out there will cover you okay on some things, especially when it comes to catching viruses that have been around for a while. But with ransomware, the way that it's changing and updating, you got to stay on top.
You need to remember, antivirus is not going to catch everything.
Yeah. That's why doing routine operating system updates. So if you haven't updated your computer, laptop in a while, there is a setting that you can go into to schedule updates. Those updates are built by the software manufacturers. They're producing these to help fight viruses, malware, ransomware. But if you don't update it, it's not going to catch the most recent ones. Stronger passwords. Hackers love getting into these systems with weak passwords because they've got all sorts of software and algorithms that they use to crack the code. If you're not using numbers, letters, signs, and you haven't changed your password recently, we recommend every 6 to 12 months, and again, making it stronger each time, because again, they're getting smarter and wiser on how to crack those. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, shred your data, especially if you're still working in an industry that uses paper a lot and there's critical information. Either go out and buy a shredder, use a shredder, and be sure to use it. But it's not just shredding the paper anymore. If you've got computers that you're throwing out, that you're discarding, getting rid of, don't just wipe it clean and send it off and donate it or give it to a friend or family member. There are companies out there that will destroy those hard drives to where they can never be used again, especially if you've got lots of critical information, even though it's deleted. And Sean can kind of attest to that. He's worked a lot in that, with investigations. If it's on a computer and it's been deleted, you can find it, right?
As long as it's not been overwritten.
Right. And then finally, employee training. This is the biggest one. As Sean was saying earlier, if you look at how these hackers are getting into systems, it's typically from human error. It's from lack of training, and it's from employees clicking on emails that they shouldn't be clicking on, or visiting websites that they shouldn't be looking at. So one way to do this, there are services out there that allow you to run simulators, phishing simulators. So, the art of war, Sun Tzu, the best way to know your enemy is to become your enemy. Well, if you look at some of the services that they're offering, you can send an email out to your employees and it will send a link for them to click on. And you can send it as if you're sending it from Google or from Amazon or from some other platform, to where if they click on it, it'll take them to a site that says, look, you were just caught by a phishing simulator. It was sent by us, your company. Your computer's safe, don't worry about it, but you need to learn how to detect and avoid these phishing attacks. So please watch this 9-minute video. Then it will go into discussing what you need to look for, all the things we discussed today, looking at the links, looking at the source of where it came from, and it's pretty informative. They also provide dashboards that will show you over time the performance of your employees, how maybe at the beginning there were too many people clicking on these emails that they shouldn't, and after training and watching videos and making sure that they have meetings about it, eventually you get to a point that, you know, everyone's checking out these links before they click on them. This is a big deal because it's, you know, it just takes one click. There was a city in North Carolina that got hit. One employee had clicked on a link, ended up costing them $314,000 in damages. It went all through their network, jacked up their servers. It was not a good deal.
All right, so for the law enforcement side, one of the big disclaimers I want to put out there is law enforcement is not going to come into your building and help you get your money back. Law enforcement's sole job is to try to find the people that are doing this. Now, it's very important to report these if you feel like you've been, if you have ransomware that's hit your computer. It's very important to report them. You can report it to the FBI. They have a website where you can file a complaint through IC3, www.ic3.gov, or through cisa.gov. That's a Department of Homeland Security. You can also reach out to like your local Secret Service office and let them know. When you do get infected and you contact law enforcement, you know, there's a few things you want to let them give law enforcement, you know, like the date of the infection, the ransomware variant, obviously you as the victim, all of your information, how much is being requested, pretty much just general information that you would file as a victim. The one thing, you know, and as I said, the law enforcement's not going to help you get your money back. The one thing that law enforcement can do is start tracking down these individuals. And though a lot of these people are coming from foreign countries, you know, parts of Europe, parts of Russia, when these guys are identified, there are some countries, obviously not Russia, North Korea, they're not going to cooperate and do extraditions, but like Romania has recently started allowing the Secret Service to go in and extradite these guys back. And so it's very important to report it to law enforcement. And another thing law enforcement can do is they can probably, you know, they might be able to steer you towards the right consulting agency. They can help you start rebuilding your system. But I just want to make it very clear that law enforcement is not going to come in and their sole job is not to find your money and get you your money back. The sole job is to find the person that did this and try to put them out of business. Several resources here that you can look at. FTC is a good one. One of the best things that I really like on here is this under the cybercrime blog. It's a guy, krebsonsecurity.com. He runs a blog. He will post multiple different news articles that people really don't find about. He goes out and he searches where attacks have taken place, and he has maps of where attacks have taken place. The first time I got on this website, I was kind of astonished to find out that Jack in the Box had been hit, but nobody knew about it. It was Jack in the Boxes in the region of Oklahoma and Texas, and it was a point of sale deal. So when people were going in, a lot of their information was being taken off the point of sale. This Krebs on Security, it's very informative. He puts out very good articles. I would highly recommend, you know, browsing through his stuff, you know, daily. I read his stuff daily or once. Actually, I'm on an email list for him, so I get constant emails of new attacks, and it's very interesting to see what all there is. And then this real-time cyber threat map, which is what we put up earlier, the Spire Eye, it will show you current attacks taking place throughout the world.
So a lot of these sites, again, you'll get copies of this with the presentation that's sent out. But especially when it comes to COVID-19 and the scams being out there, again, if someone is purporting a cure, a test kit that no one's heard about, that isn't verified, you can report them to the FTC. So you've got a link here for complaints. And again, I know we're busy. Everybody's working from home. Things are hectic. But to report these incidents helps the next person, especially the target of these hackers, which again is the elderly. They know that they're affected the most from this virus, and they're going to keep targeting them and calling them and sending emails and fake information. So the more we report it and get them shut down, the better it helps that that target. So the infrastructure attacks here on this link here, seculor.com, it's the fourth one down. That actually shows attacks that are going on in Oklahoma or have in the past year or so. Again, you can see what's going on around. Again, if you've never heard of ransomware, if it's something new to you, just take a look at some of these maps and you'll be surprised at how much of this is going on just around our community, the nation, the world. It's all over the place. There is a downtime cost calculator. It's the second one from the top at datto.com. If you're running a business, you have employees, and you want to see what it would cost to be down, it will ask you for average pay for your employees, what kind of antivirus you do, how many updates do you do a year on your PCs and laptops. So you fill out the information, and then it'll show you pretty much by the hour, if you were down for an hour, how much money would you be out with that number of employees and with the customer base and ordering supplies, things like that. We've done our own study, and on average, if you have one employee that's down for an hour, it's about $100 per hour. So if you've got 4 employees down, 5 per hour, I mean, it adds up fast. So now is the time to start investing and thinking about your IT and your security. At least do some research and figure out how to protect your company, because again, it only takes one click. There's a lot of resources here on cybercrime, on different infrastructure attacks, the identity of ransomware on this third one down. It actually will go over all 830 ransomwares that are out there. And then there's one, I don't think we put it on here, but it's called No Ransomware. We'll send that in the link. It actually gives you the keys to decrypt some of the ransomware that's been most popular and been trading the most on the dark web. So I know we posted one on our Facebook page, especially with the app map for COVID-19. We were able to show that this app was locking up people's phones where it demanded money. And then we researched more and found that there is already a key that was created. So again, it's better just to be careful as opposed to having to work through all these issues with security, and again, getting those keys sometimes is not as easy as it sounds. So on our last slide here, basically we're to the point where Sean and I have some disagreements when it comes to either paying the ransom or not. So my opinion as a small business and as someone who knows the challenges of payroll, paying insurance, comp, working in an industry where you can't be down for more than a couple of days, especially when your system, your most utilized tool, is locked up. My opinion is if you don't have backups, if you don't have the antivirus, and you got caught with not having a secure system, sometimes you don't have a choice to pay. I think you have to do it, in other words, to not close your business, to keep things going, but you use that as a learning opportunity. Now, like I said, sometimes the FBI would bring in consultants and they would negotiate. Sometimes insurance companies are consulted on this, and sometimes insurance will pay, but it's very specific to your policy and what it entails. That case with Merck, $870 million loss. I think they're adding it up now. It's over $1 billion loss. They went to their insurance company and said, hey, let's, we're turning this in as a claim. Our systems are tied up. We need to get this as basically file a claim with the insurance company. They denied it initially. I think it's in a lawsuit now, but they denied it because the ransomware that was created was actually created by the GRU, which is the military Germans. Okay, so they created it, but it was an attack that they were trying to use on another country. And because it got caught up in Merck, they said that's an act of war. So they were labeling it as an act of war as to why they weren't covering it on their insurance. So again, it's a big battle, it's a big fight. Again, I think there are cases where you almost have to pay it, like these schools where they were hit with $10,000 or $15,000 ransomware. To replace the system would cost even more, and sometimes you just got to pay. What do you think?
I think it goes back to, how the United States stance is on dealing with terrorism. You don't negotiate, you don't pay. The reason why you don't pay is because you're keeping these people in business. The reason why they keep attacking is because they keep getting paid. If you're smart about how you run your business, you do your backups, you have proper security, you have proper training, then quite honestly, this shouldn't happen to you. But if it does happen to you and you have your proper backups, and you can just pretty much restart from ground up, then there's no reason to pay. I understand that, there's going to be chances where, or not chances, but there's going to be times where, you're going to have to pay, but it's still, if you're doing everything properly, if you're doing your backups, if you're training your folks, you shouldn't get affected in the first place. But if you have everything set in place, then you shouldn't have to pay. And, once these folks quit getting paid, this would stop. But this is not going to stop, because why would it stop? You got a guy that literally sits in a room, probably in his pajamas with his feet up on the desk, creating programs, and he's getting paid to literally do nothing. He's probably watching The Price is Right, and he's getting paid to do nothing. So they're not going to stop. The second they have to go out and get a real job is when this will stop.
I will say a lot of the hackers that are creating ransomware and selling it on the dark web, I know the ones that have been paid the most, they're trying to build a reputation as in, oh, we're hackers, you can trust us. We'll give you your data back. In the beginning, when the technology wasn't that great and these hackers were still working out the kinks, a lot of times these companies would pay the ransom and then they wouldn't get their information back. So they were still out the money. So I can see what Sean's saying. It encourages bad behavior. I do think the climate is changing when it's, these guys are trying to build a reputation. We've hacked all these different systems, and every time they've paid, they've gotten the information back. But the problem is finding good information. Like I said, a lot of companies, banks, finances, if you notice, I didn't have a lot of numbers on the financial institutions. They don't want people knowing when they get hacked. It's one of those situations where it just shows the lack of security on their part. So a lot of times they'll pay the ransom and just to get it over with, and then they try to build on their infrastructure and try to make it stronger, which again is good. But if you could start now and start preparing and start learning ways to fight it, it's, the prevention is a lot better than the cure, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So I think that's all we've got. We appreciate the time. I don't know if there's some questions, but Sean, I will be here for a few minutes.
Gentlemen, thank you. And folks, I'm going to come back on again. I'm Analyst with Better Business Bureau serving Central Oklahoma. If you have questions, you're welcome to utilize the chat feature. There's a drop down where you can send them to everyone, or you could select myself, and in the webinar, it looks like I'm listed as A. Abbott, if you would like to send them to just me. So I have a couple of questions for you guys. First of all, Sean, I also like The Price is Right. I have a day job here at BBB, so I don't fall into the category of those watchers. So you mentioned phishing emails earlier. So one of the things you guys mentioned, but I'd love for you to share examples that it might come from someone that you know. For example, a company that I used to work for, there was a phishing email that went to about half of the company that looked like it was from the owner, and the owner's name happened to be misspelled with just one letter. So it was something that a couple of people missed. Thankfully, the IT company caught it, and we were able to quickly update all the staff to say, don't click on any of those. More of them came out. So that was a personal example that I have, but I would love for you all to share with the group maybe some additional examples that you can think of that, again, may come from someone that you know, not just Amazon.
Yeah, so social media is also, if you notice Facebook, every now and then you'll hear from a friend that says, hey, you may have gotten a link from me in Facebook messaging. That wasn't for me, don't click on it. So anytime I get a message or a meme or a video, before I open it, I'll send them a quick message. Hey, did you send this to me? Because I believe this isn't something you would normally send. And they'll either say yes or yes, I got hacked, don't open it. Because it's true. Once you click those links, they have these Trojan worms that will go in and it'll copy all of the information you have, all your contacts, and then it'll start sending them out to everybody else. So again, if you see something suspicious, if you don't know, don't click is what our favorite term is. But again, if it's from someone familiar that you know of, just make sure there's not a link or an attachment that is something that will take you to a different site or that could download to your computer and open up a virus.
And be careful too, because there could be somebody out there that knows that you do business with a particular company. They could send an email that's formed from this company, and especially if you have someone that works in like maybe an accounts payable department and who's receiving just constant invoices, we need to pay, we need this paid, we need this paid, we need this paid. And, they get and maybe an email from someone, say like, Home Depot. Well, we do all kinds of business on Home Depot, and I'm just going to click on this invoice. You need, when you're tracking stuff like that, you need to know, do you have outstanding invoices? You get something that you're not sure of, call the company. Hey, I just received this email from you today, and it's got an invoice attached to it. Is this real?
Yeah, agreed.
Great, thank you. Okay, something else you guys mentioned, especially talking about the unfortunate scams that are taking place currently and no doubt will be ongoing in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic. You talked about verifying apps before someone downloads them. I don't know that that's something that many of us think about. So how might someone go about, give us a little bit more information on verifying apps? What are some quick, simple ways that we at home or at the office could do if we see an app and think, man, that's cool, heck, I'll just download that. What should we do first?
Yeah, you need to be careful with some of these apps, especially this TikTok app, which is what everybody's using. That was actually created by a Chinese company, and they're data mining. They're wanting to see the patterns and of what, I think mostly, young adults and teenagers are the ones that are using this TikTok app. But it's getting, you're installing this app on your phone willingly, and then you're allowing it's data mining. The Russians have come up with some apps as well. I know that some of the best way to verify apps is like Google. They actually will verify the app and let you know whether or not it's a good solid verified app. Another good way to do it is Google it. That's the best way to do it. Google something.
Find out who made it, who was the creator of it. Typically, if you're going to, like I'm an iPhone guy, I'm an Apple guy. So if I download any type of app, I'm going to go to the App Store. But even then, like you said, with TikTok and some of these other ones, you still need to be careful. It's okay to research. It's okay to find out who was the developer. It's just, the more knowledge, the more power. And if you can find the information and use that to determine, yeah, maybe I'll wait on this. If you can wait on the app and you're not sure, let's see what's being said in the market. Eventually, there's companies out there that are testing apps that are looking, just like with TikTok. There are people who are researching these things. Maybe don't download a new app if it's only been out. Check out the reviews. If it's got a 2-star review in the App Store, you might say, well, why is that? And go through and start researching it. So it doesn't hurt to dig in deep on these things.
Excellent. Okay, so here's the question I think everybody wants to know the answer to. You talked about what a strong password is. But we all hear this a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Building passwords for work and personal and all the different things, apps, for example, that we subscribe to. Mm-hmm. What really is a strong password? Like, give us an example of one that someone might create that solidifies as a strong password.
Okay, so I was given this recommendation when I went through a school with the Secret Service for network intrusion. And for a good, strong password, what's your favorite song? What's the title of your favorite song? Make it a long song and make that your password. Maybe make the first couple of letters capitalized, and then at the end, make it a number sign and whatever. So, if nobody knows that you're the biggest Belinda Carlisle fan on the face of the earth, that you love one of her songs, what could be my password? I don't know. Walk like an Egyptian, number 1, 2, 3. Who's going to guess walk like an Egyptian, number 1, 2, 3? But was that Belinda Carlisle or was that the Bengals?
We'll Google that to verify later.
But anyway, that's so that's one of the things you can do is some of your favorite songs, make those, don't make them like, your kid, John and Sue, number 1, with the John capitalized, or don't make it your birthday in reverse.
Yes.
That's stuff that, these hackers, they've got these programs that it'll run through that in minutes.
Yeah, stay away from the last 4 digits of your social security number when creating any type of PIN or password. If you are going to capitalize, try to make it maybe not the first or the last letter, but maybe something in the middle that you'll just remember. Try to throw in some numbers. Instead of using S's, use 5 or 3s or 2, but make it to where you'll remember. Now, there are apps out there that will keep track of your passwords.
Password keepers.
Yeah, so I use one. I've got over probably 200 passwords. I don't remember all those because I have to change them constantly. So I put them in the app. It does a facial recognition to let me into the app, and then I can go and do a search. That's probably the best thing to do. Take a look at where to keep those passwords safe, and again, and just make sure that only you have access to it.
And that's the problem, is everything requires a username and a password these days, and so people don't want to remember, oh, I've got 25 systems that need 25 username and passwords, so I'm going to make it all the same, and it's going to be this just
Don't do that.
blasé deal. Get you a password keeper. Also, don't write your username and passwords down on a piece of paper and put them underneath your mouse or underneath the mouse pad. That's
Bad practice.
That's bad practice.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that people can do is they can hack into your web cameras, and if you've got your password and usernames somewhere right there by it, they can potentially see it.
Thank you. Also, one of my BBB teammates that's dialed in today in our operations department included a note here for everyone to see, an easy website that I've seen folks use too is strongpasswordgenerator.com.
Yeah,
Mhm.
random.
That could help you as
Yep.
well.
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
Yep.
Thank
Keep it
you for
random.
that. Okay, so you mentioned a couple of different times in the presentation, there are currently 830 identified different types of ransomware.
Right.
How often perhaps is ransomware identified? Are there likely more out there? Give us a little more context there.
There's a lot out there. I mentioned early on that the Russians cultivate. They will identify kids that they know have some kind of knack for computers, and they will, instead of those kids going through some formal type of schooling, the Russian military, the Russian intelligence agencies will take these kids, and they will literally from an early age start teaching them how to become computer hackers. And they are creating different types of malware. They're creating different types of all kinds of nasty computer bugs on a daily basis. That is their sole job. North Korea, a lot of their economy is funded through this. That they do the same thing. And so, I would say for every 1 to 5 that's identified, there may be 25 more out there that no one has identified yet.
Yeah, but the question as to how do you identify them? Because there's a lot of ego when it comes to hacking, and
they put them out there.
With these hackers, they want to be known. Again, they're trying to build a reputation that if we hack your system and you pay us, you'll get your information back. So they want it to be known that they're dependable in that fashion, because if you pay the ransom, and it's this particular, Emotet was one of them that came out. It's a banking Trojan. It goes in. Unfortunately, 75% of the antivirus on the market today can't stop Emotet. It's one of the most dangerous ones out there. But they are known for paying. For when they're paid, they release the data. So you'll see it. It'll be in the ransom note. They'll say you've been locked down. They'll say, oops, you got locked out by Emotet, and now you need to pay us this amount of money to this Bitcoin wallet, and they give you the information. Again, it's hard to track. We're getting better at trying to track it and figure out where the money goes, but it's still, it's not a perfect science yet.
The biggest way they're identified is because someone's been affected.
Yeah, and their name pops up. They want to be known.
Thank you. The last question I have, I don't see any others that have come through, so we'll get to wrap up early here in just a few minutes, but I'm curious, you guys mentioned that if someone is getting rid of a computer, there are companies out there that can help wipe it, different things you can do, companies that can help you shred. Can you give us an idea of some of these companies, if not by brand name, places that people could or should look to for those types of services?
Yeah, one of our clients actually does this. We do their IT services, and then they're a shredding company. They're in Norman, Absolute Data Shredding. They will take computers in, break them down, and basically they have a way of dismantling and shredding the hard drives. A lot of times you can recycle and take your computers to a recycling place that will, because there's a lot of gold and different metals in computers that people try to recycle. I would just, again, take your hard drive out, take the rest of it in. Make sure anything that held data is some way destroyed or wiped out, to where, again, if it's been written over several times, like Sean said, But there, you can Google, you can research, but like I said, one of our clients does it. They're in Norman. They have a truck that goes around and will do it on site. Very dependable, and it's a great service.
We did have a question that came in. Thank you for that, Kyle. Thoughts on personal VPN devices or apps? Which do you recommend and which do you not recommend?
The VPN is very good. A personal VPN, it's very effective. It can definitely give you another layer of security.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, we have our own that we outsource. So I'm not going to help a competitor, but you know, it is good to have a virtual private network. Again, it kind of covers your tracks and where you're going and what you're doing. But again, it's another one of those things where shop around, do some research, look at reviews. There's a lot of websites that you can, Tech Republic, CDNet. There's all sorts of, blogs that will give you information and give you suggestions on what to use and what to try. But just, do your research.
Thank you. So we'll get wrapped up here. Some quick things as we close out. Again, thank you all so much for dialing in. I'm glad that you get a little bit of time back in your day today. As Nathan mentioned a couple of different times, BBB, we will be sending out a presentation, which again has those resources at the end of the presentation, along with a survey. We would love your feedback for this. I see your comment. Thank you. I'm glad this was good information. I appreciate that. Also, this is incredibly timely. Nathan, this is something we've been talking about for weeks in preparation for this. Yeah. Not just because of the current pandemic, but of course because we're all working ever increasingly now online and remotely. So this information, gentlemen, thank you.
Yeah,
it's incredibly
my pleasure.
timely.
Appreciate it.
Also, just a heads up for the group that is dialed in today, we're working to secure some, a date and time and some additional information, but Better Business Bureau is going to be partnering with the Small Business Administration. We know they're putting out a lot of information right now on small business loans to aid companies right now in this difficult time. So as soon as we have that webinar set up, we will email this group that information. So just a heads up that is pending. Additionally, we have our next Trust Talk Lunch, Learn, and Networking online series. It will be Thursday, April 23rd. It will be a storms preparedness panel. In this case, we'll be talking about preparedness in terms of our physical storms in Oklahoma, as well as the current storm, air quotes, for COVID-19 and how businesses can prepare and things that they can do to set themselves up further for success as we work online and should move further into these areas in the storm. So thank you all again. We appreciate you and we hope that you stay well. And if you do see or hear of scams, don't hesitate to log on to bbb.org and fill out the scam tracker, or you can call us at 405-239-6081. Thank you all and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You guys can leave this.